In the stillness of the Arctic night, a group of young men were sleeping calmly in their tents. Little did they know their expedition would soon take a dark and deadly turn, as fate had dealt them a hand that would test the limits of their bravery and friendship. For one of their own, Horatio, the consequences of this journey would be nothing short of catastrophic, as he would find himself face to face with a ravenous polar bear, thirsting for its next meal. This is the tale of a tragic encounter in the wild, where the line between life and death became blurred and a young man met his untimely demise. Horatio's parents were filled with fear and apprehension at the thought of their son going on the school's adventurous holiday, as the threat of a polar bear loomed large. Nevertheless, being reassured by various precautions that had been put in place, they relented and granted their permission. Horatio, known for his inquisitive nature, diligence, tenacity, and affability among his peers, had dreams of becoming a physician with a full future of promise. Tragically, this expedition proved to be a calamity, robbing him of his bright future and the chance to fulfill his aspirations. On the 23rd of July 2011, a group of 80 adventurers, both young and mature, descended upon the desolate wilderness of Svalbard in Norway for a month-long adventure. This journey promised to be a test of endurance, with grueling hikes and cramped lodgings. But it was also poised to etch memories into the travelers' minds, memories that would endure for a lifetime. The thrill-seekers were eager to embark upon this journey and commence their explorations. As the journey entered its 14th night, the travelers had formed an unbreakable bond strengthened by the challenges they encountered. Horatio retired to his tent on the 5th of August, with eager anticipation for the surprises the next day would unveil. On this very evening, they were suddenly presented with an unexpected spectacle of polar bear footprints in the snow, an occurrence not unfamiliar in these frigid climes, yet still one to stir their imagination with a sense of awe and wonder. Though the tracks were seen, there was no cause for alarm. Tragically, on that fateful evening, the expedition's base was overrun by a desperate and famished male polar bear. Horatio, who shared a tent with his youthful companions, Scott Bennell Smith, age 16, and Patrick Flender, a mere 17 years of age, met his untimely demise in the dreadful attack. Despite the valiant efforts of his friends, Horatio fell victim to the polar bear's ferocity. In the stillness of dawn, Scott was suddenly roused from slumber by the tent's violent convulsions. At first, he supposed it to be a comrade's ruse to waken him, but the tent was soon torn apart by the jaws of a ravenous male bear. Its aggressive demeanor was the result of its prolonged fast, a grim testament to its relentless hunger. Amid the chaos, Scott and Patrick were both struck with wounds to the head and back, as the desperate bear vented its fury upon them. Patrick's recollection of that fateful night was nothing less than a nightmare. The polar bear's claws rent his flesh as it snapped and snarled at him. Its blood-stained maw and nose stood out in stark relief against its white fur, and Patrick feared for his life. In an act of desperation, he raised his arms to shield his face, but the polar bear's jaws locked onto his elbow, tearing his arm away from his face and sinking its teeth into his skull. Patrick said that he recalls the devastating moment vividly, with the memory of the sickening sound of his skull cracking still fresh in his mind. He also remembers the bear's deafening growl, which was so close that it chilled him to the core. In a frenzied struggle for survival, he landed blows upon the beast's face until at last it released him, only to fix its gaze upon poor Horatio. Matthew Burke was camping with his companions when he heard their anguished cries for help. Peering out into the night, he saw Horatio being carried off by the jaws of a polar bear, its grip on his head unyielding. Despite valiant efforts, Horatio's wounds proved too severe, and he eventually passed. The commotion roused Michael Reed from his slumber, who, with rifle in hand, bravely attempted to rescue Horatio. Tragically, the firearm was faulty, leaving Michael defenseless against the towering beast. The polar bear pounced, sinking its teeth into his head and causing intense agony. There he was, facing the monster as it sought to devour him with no means of protection in sight. The brute's jaws clamped down upon his skull, causing untold pain, but Michael Ever the trained adventurer remembered the polar bear's one weakness, its eyes. He struggled to gouge them, but to no avail, as the beast continued its ferocious attack. On that fateful night, a seasoned mountaineer named Iraq found himself facing the most dangerous creature in the Arctic. Despite his bravery and quick thinking, the polar bear seemed determined to claim another victim. Iraq was thrown to the ground, and the bear's razor-sharp claws were mere inches from his face. In a moment of desperation, he cried out for help, but his plea was answered by a miracle. A shot from Michael's rifle echoed across the camp, ending the life of the animal. Iraq was alive, but many questions remained unanswered. How could a seasoned explorer like Iraq be caught off guard by a polar bear? Why were the safety measures promised to the families of the travelers not in place? An investigation revealed that only the team leaders, not the entire group, were equipped with the flares and tripwires that could have saved Horatio and the others. The tragedy had struck, leaving behind shattered dreams and broken families, a testament to the cruel and unforgiving nature of the Arctic. The fateful events leading to the tragedy were recounted bare by the expedition's leader. Despite their best intentions, the group had fallen short in securing the necessary safety measures for their journey into the wild. The intended pen flares and tripwires were meant to offer protection from any danger, but upon reaching base camp, they realized that they had not brought enough flares and the tripwires were not functioning properly. A lack of triggers for the alarm devices and substitution of fishing line for brighter cords caused the system to fail. This led to the ill-fated event that claimed the life of Horatio, despite the efforts of those around him. This is a poignant tale, a sobering reminder of the wild's capricious nature. The untamed wilderness with its dangers lurking in the shadows can strike at any moment, and no amount of preparation can completely guarantee safety. In the wake of the tragedy, an investigation was carried out, but no criminal charges could be filed. However, Horatio's memory was honored and celebrated through the creation of Horatio's Garden, a charity established in his name. Inspired by Horatio's volunteer work at a local health center, the gardens offer a peaceful retreat for patients and their families, and have received recognition from Princess Eugenie, who became a royal patron. Horatio's legacy continues to live on, touching the lives of many long after his passing. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. Let us never forget the lessons learned from this tragedy, and always be prepared for the unpredictable dangers of the wilderness. Should you wish to stay informed of other similar stories, please do not hesitate to subscribe to our channel. Until next time, farewell.